they arrived on the popular music scene in 1963, few bands have managed to outplay, outperform, or outlast the Rolling Stones. The group that brought a sense of danger and excitement to rock and roll created a whirlwind of controversy throughout the 1960s, injecting raw power into their music and striking a far more aggressive pose than their contemporaries, the Beatles.
They can be the good guys, we'll be the bad guys in the black hats. That's the Rolling Stones, we're the bad guys in the black hats, right? We'll be the villains, because villains are far more interesting than the good guys, far more interesting than the heroes.
Not only did the Stones compose some of the landmark tracks of the era, they redefined white popular music, while their sexually fueled performances created hysteria across the globe.
When the Stones came on, they brushed aside everything that had been before, like matchsticks.
Jagger was quite happy to express that kind of sexuality in music, which certainly black artists have done, and very, very few English artists had ever attempted.
This programme presents a critical review of the Rolling Stones during their first creative period. A period in which 5 middle-class white youths managed to conquer the world. The 5 members of the first successful incarnation of the Rolling Stones were born in a wartime Britain with a remarkably conservative popular music scene. While that scene was shaken by the emergence of Elvis Presley and rock and roll, a wealth of black American music had also begun to make it. Bluesmen such as Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf and Jimmy Reed were to be the greatest influence on the young Stones, their raw and primal sound a world away from the conventions of popular music. In Dartford, England, Mick Jagger and his friend Dick Taylor, both students at Dartford Grammar School, were busy hunting for releases by these marginal figures and soaking up their revolutionary style.
When we first met, there was rock and roll had its sort of first outburst, I think, really, and was getting a little bit tame around the edges. And I think we both, I mean, I was into jazz and blues and things like that, and then we discovered rhythm, what was then called rhythm and blues, which is really sort of urban blues. It's sort of more like Muddy Waters and Elmore James.
Although blues was a relatively unknown and unpopular musical genre at the time, distinguished jazz players Cyril Davies and Alexis Corner had formed a blues band whose reputation was growing and whose residency at the London club The Marquee gave hope to fledgling bands countrywide.
The blues scene in London in the early 60s was very small, and there were very limited places that you could hear this music, so naturally everybody gravitated together. I mean, to get the records, you know, Mick Jagger was famously sending off to Chess Records in Chicago and getting them on mail order. So you felt part of a community if you were into this music. And Alexis Corner's band with Cyril Davis used to play on a Thursday night, I think it was, the Marquee. Every other night was a jazz night. There was one night a week where you could hear authentic blues music. And inevitably, Mick Jagger gravitated there, Brian Jones gravitated there, Charlie Watts sat in and played drums. So really that is the roots of the Rolling Stones, and not just of the Rolling Stones, but the whole of the British blues and R&B movement.
We saw that Alexis Corner was playing in the Ealing Club, and we all bundled into Mick's dad's car and went down there a couple of times. Saw Alexis Corner, were very impressed for a couple of weeks, and then with all the sort of cockiness of youth, we said, oh, we could do this, we could be up there. And then we saw Brian Jones, and we were very impressed with Brian's slide playing, because he was like playing proper slide guitar with he had an acoustic with a pickup. I think he had a Martin I think he already had his Martin with a pickup on it, and it just sounded so good. And we went and chatted to them, and that's how that all started.
While Jagger had become an erstwhile member of Alexis Corner's band Blues Incorporated, Brian Jones began to set up his own. He asked Keith Richards, Dick Taylor and Mick to rehearse with him and join the band. In July 1962, Jones's band replaced Blues Incorporated on the BBC's Jazz Club radio show. Asked for a name, they called themselves the Rolling Stones after a Muddy Waters track. Just over a week later, on the 21st of July 1962, the band made their debut live performance at the Marquee Club on Wardour Street.
I remember it quite well. I remember the audience reaction was kind of mixed, because I think there were a few people there who wanted to hear proper blues. I think there were quite a few people who really enjoyed it. I think it was quite a short set, but there were also people who sort of were, play blues, you know, you've got to play proper blues. But there you go, that's what it was like then. But we certainly all got quite a buzz out of it. I know the cleaner didn't like it. The cleaner said they'll never get anywhere.
Struggling to get further gigs, Dick Taylor left the band to be replaced by Bill Wyman. In 1963, they recruited drummer Charlie Watts and managed to secure a residency at the Crawdaddy Club in Richmond. The band quickly established themselves as an exciting live act, and they attracted the attention of Soho promoter Andrew Loog Oldham. A young, shrewd businessman, Oldham offered the Rolling Stones a 3-year management deal, and they subsequently signed to Decca Records. In May 1963, the band went to Olympic Studios to record their first release, a cover of the Chuck Berry track Come On. It would go on to reach number 21 in the UK singles chart.
Everything is wrong since me and my baby parted. All day long I'm walking cause I couldn't get my car started. Later from a job and I can't afford to check it. I wish somebody come along and run into it and wreck it. Come on, since me and my baby parted. Come on, I can't get started. Come on, I can't afford it.